How can I stop feeling depressed? I have a lot of personal experience with this, and I think the answer is in the statement that I just made. How can I stop feeling depressed? Really is what we're looking to do is to stop having a feeling. And the irony of it is that that's exactly what you need to have. I mean, depression doesn't happen for no reason at all. And you might be sitting there like extremely depressed and for a long time, right? We're not talking about just depressed for a few days or a couple of weeks because of some moderately difficult period in your life. I'm talking about something a bit more serious, right? And interestingly enough, the more serious it is, the more you need to be able to allow yourself to feel those feelings. Resisting them is kind of like a sinkhole. I mean, the more that you resist, the more that you move to try to get out of it, the more that it grips you. It's a very difficult thing because you're still in the pit, you're still in depression, and you're asking yourself, well, I can't, like, how do I get out of this, right? So I think that there are certain things that we have to understand first. Like, where does your depression come from? You know, that's very clear because if your depression happens to be something that is rooted in your biochemistry or it's rooted because of some childhood traumas and it's been your whole life versus just some event that's happened to you recently, there's going to be different ways to get out of it. But I'm no mental health coach here. I'm just trying to clarify and bring a bit more sobering ideas to this feeling of wanting to stop this depression, right? And whenever I've felt it, I've realized, okay, first, don't cave in and give into it. Like, okay, I'm going to 1000% go down this dark road and be depressed and listen to really negative music that makes me feel those feelings even more because it's a balance, right? You can actually cause your depression to get worse in those ways. So I'm not trying to say that that's what you have to do. I'm just saying that personally, I've had to accept, right, that I was depressed. And to stop being depressed meant me doing things I really, really did not want to do, especially because I was so depressed. And that's becoming more of a difficulty nowadays because it seems like whatever that you end up doing is going to have only negative consequences. And of course, while you're in that depression, your lens sees everything as negative, right? So it's like a vicious cycle and it pulls you really, really deep. Now, I'm trying to speak from a place of reality is becoming difficult right now. It's difficult for all of us, but it's difficult for you as an individual for the reasons that you're going through those things. So the question is, how do you stop? How do you move through your depression? Right. And what I've been doing is trying to express things in such a way that doesn't necessarily offer a solution in a straightforward way, because I really believe in the individual. I'm trying to support people in who they are as that person. I'm not trying to understand some kind of generic solution or pattern that can be applied to all of us. You're depressed for a certain reason, and there's no one else that can be depressed for the very reasons that you are in the way that you are, right? Because no one else is you. And that's always been very frustrating for me when anybody was trying to help me through whatever problems that I had. They were applying solutions that they thought would help me. So I'm not saying that people have a misplaced intention, but they are misguided. And for me, it's important to realize that because when you're trying to cease a process that is natural, you're necessarily going to cause more damage than good. So, this is what happened to me. I was very depressed from the moment that I had a bad car accident and I could not, and I was a teenager. I was super athletic. I was in the military cadets, and coming back from a shooting competition, my officer who was at the wheel fell asleep and we barrel rolled 4 times and went into the ditch. I lacerated my eyebrow, had to reconstruct my ear, broke my ankle, and couldn't play sports for about a year. because after 4 months in the cast, every time I played, I would sprain my ankle. That was very depressing. But depression became a pattern with me. These emotions are a little bit difficult to process. Depression became a pattern, and over time, it just became my reality. So it wasn't just fleeting depression, it was deep depression. And the one thing that I did that was really horrible was to not really accept that reality. I had convinced myself that I wasn't depressed, that it was everybody else that was just better at showing a facade, but that they really felt this way too, that humans are just really good at hiding their suffering, and that I had no more energy to hide anymore. And that just wasn't the truth. But it was too painful for me to really accept that, no, no, this is something that I have to deal with, and that this really is my state. This is who I am. I am a person who is lost and depressed. So the answer was to face it. And I learned that in the most brutal way because in order to realize that truth, that I was depressed, I ended up hurting some people. I ended up hurting myself way more and experiencing depression on levels that are way, way more deep than was probably necessary. And who knows, maybe it wasn't just the fact that I had a car accident and I was depressed from not being able to play sports, and it was just changing my entire reality at that time when, you're already going through existential crisis as a teenager. But I think it just brought out all of the pain and suffering and identity issues that I had my whole life growing up. So it was just like I was ripe for depression. And yeah, it was going to happen either way, but it got so much worse because I hadn't admitted it to myself. So admitting it to yourself and accepting it and not necessarily trying to cease feeling those feelings, that darkness, the inability to enjoy anything in your life, how everything feels so dry and cold. You don't need to you don't need to stop that process. The point is to embrace the process. And at some point when you do that, when you're processing those emotions that feel so icky, you become sick of it. You become tired of just wallowing in those feelings, right? You're sick of it either way, but you become sick of you making it worse for yourself. Like, poor me and everything else, because that's the problem with depression is you tend to point towards every other possibility except yourself. Now, in fact, it is true. You probably aren't at fault for the things that happen to you in a lot of cases. But that doesn't change the fact that you have to be responsible for it anyway. Like, no one is going to do the work for you to get out of it. People can be there shoving pills down your throat, pulling you out of the house to go for a jog, giving you hugs, validating your feelings constantly, and you're still going to be trapped. So, how do I stop feeling depressed? Feel depressed. That's the best solution that I can offer. Feel it and start to take notice when you're making it worse for yourself. Try to see where you're blaming other people and other situations and being angry and sad about that. When you could just sit there, observe your depression, your dark feelings, and appreciate that you're a human being and that this is making you into a person who is introspective. And who knows where that's going to lead. Because for me, it was probably a good 12 years of my life that I was walking deep, deep, deep down in this like underground level of depression. And it eventually caused me to try to unalive myself, right? So it was all the way bad. And I still came out of it. And now, throughout the challenges that I'm facing today, and I have quite a few, and they're very difficult, I don't let myself, it's hard for me to be depressed. Like, I feel it sometimes, but it doesn't last very long because I know what that's like. So you can actually choose not to be depressed. That's how powerful depression can make you. When you get through it and face it and go through the process of it properly, and you get to the point where you're good at stopping yourself because you get sick of blaming everything and everyone all the time, and you get good at doing what you need to do to move forward in a healthy way, then and all of that has to do with, facing yourself and doing all this very challenging stuff, but still you'll do it and you'll fall and you won't feel so good anymore, and then you'll get up again and you'll be depressed, and it's just like a chaotic thing. You're completely lost in a tornado. I understand that. But once you get through it, I promise you, you'll become capable of choosing not to fall into depression, no matter how hard your circumstances are. Yeah. So I'm wishing you the best of luck and sending you my positivity. I hope this resonated. And I'll see you in the next one.